Welcome to another episode of Mindful Mondays. I hope you are all good. We are live from New York. So, I was going to do this episode by myself. And I was like to my friend Daniel, I called him yesterday and I was like, please, please, please come with me. I realize now that I don't have to do things by myself. Can you just come for moral support? Which is something I never do because I just do, I live life as if I live alone, but I'm realizing that I have a community. So as I was chatting about it, I'm like asking him, what do you think? What is your take on the importance of putting your hand up? Which is an episode I was going to do again by myself. And then he starts talking. So I was like, please, can you come sit here? So hello to Daniel.
Hi, Shidu. Hi, Shidu. Thank you for having me, for bringing me along. So,
So I just asked him to sit here because I think the importance of putting your hand up is something that affects all of us. I've touched on previous episodes that as Black women specifically, as a woman, I find that I can't separate the two identities. So for me, they come as one because they affect me every single day. So when we speak about the importance of putting your hand up, for me, it's been a consistent journey. A lot of people who know my story know that I had stage fright. I was bullied for 7 years as a child, which affected my ability, I would say, to even speak up or to even speak. I'd sit in English class in grade 9 or grade 8, and every time I had to say a speech, I couldn't even get through it. I practiced and practiced, but I couldn't really get the voice out. And I had a really amazing English teacher, Mrs. Hughes, and she'd see that I'm really trying, but I just can't. And she'd be so gracious to always give me a 60% because she knows that I actually did work hard, but it's just something that's really hard for me. But how it then affects the rest of my life is that I could never even ask questions in class, like I couldn't even put my hand up even when I had a question. I couldn't even put my hand up even when I had the answers. And then I'd
wow.
be frustrated
Yeah.
when someone else says what I wanted to say, like, oh, I wanted to say
I
that.
knew it.
But you didn't put your hand up.
Yeah.
Oh, this is exactly what I wanted to say, but I didn't put my hand up. And as old as I am, I'm 28 now, I still struggle to put my hand up. It takes me a while to even do that. I actually had something similar yesterday. I was in a macroeconomics class and I wanted to put my hand up, but I was just like like when you say the answer underneath your
Mm-hmm.
breath and all of that, but I didn't put my hand up. And someone would say what I wanted to say, and I'm like, oh, there goes my participation grade. But because participation counts. But so yeah, I've got different instances, and we're gonna go into it. That I've had that where most of my life I've just found that I struggle to put my hand up. And in the moments that I have put my hands up and say, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'd like to be considered. I have the answer. This is my idea. It's actually worked out, but getting
Yeah.
to that point is so difficult.
Yeah.
What is your take on the importance
Can you
of putting your
see
hand
me?
up?
Hey, I'm here. Can you see me? Yeah. Thank you, Shidu, for having me in here. I've been watching Mindful Mondays for a very long while, even before we started working together, and it's always been um, a pleasure and a very nice way to set up your week, like go into the week with this kind of like mindsets and stuff like that. And
Thank you.
it's been great. And then yes, about this topic, it's it's weird because I think from a I don't know. I'm West African. So from a West African perspective, we're always said to be very meek and quiet and toned down. And when adults are speaking, you do not speak. Only speak when you're spoken to. So we take that from the home into other institutions that we've been in. So if in school you're even scared to raise up your hand, even though you know the answer. Um, I think from my end, it's always been the fear of being wrong. And you know how much of a perfectionist that we can be. Like, I want to be right. Okay, there's no way you can be wrong because Daniel Hansen cannot be wrong. So if I should raise up my hand and then I give an answer and it's not the correct one, I feel like everyone's eyes are on me that I got it wrong. no one's looking at you. No one actually even deems. They probably did not know the answer, or they're also like waiting on you to raise up your hand to say it, and then they have this process of elimination happening in their head. So if it's not your answer, it's my answer. But you didn't raise up your hand, so they also didn't raise up their hand. They're also like this because they're also made to be meek and all. That has been very destructive in a lot of ways, because you, at an early onset, do not learn to be confident. You don't learn to be confident in being wrong, in making mistakes. Like, you don't learn that making mistakes is part of life. You can't always be perfect. You can't always have the answers. But you have to raise up your hand to know if what you're thinking is the answer. If it's not the answer, you get corrected. Because that's why we went to school anyways. We went to school to get corrected, to know, to acquire knowledge, to acquire understanding. But because we've always had the fear of raising up our hands, we don't do that. And then sometimes when you raise up your hands and you just speak, you're saying insolent, or you're always raising up your hand, or it's not the time. Like, I think also about raising up your hands, you should know the timing to raise up your hand. You don't interrupt people, obviously. You let people end their stanzas, end their comments and stuff like that. And then you raise up your hands to either ask a question or to give input, because you never know what you're interrupting. Whatever you want to ask is probably in the tail end of what somebody's speaking about and things like that. Or whatever input you're going to give, you should wait for somebody to end and then start it. I don't think it doesn't go with you should always wait for someone to do what they need to do before you do what you need to do. You just have to be very apt with the timing of it all. So growing up, I've had to weigh the waters and decipher when to raise up my hands, when to speak up, when not to speak up, and coming into us. And then when I left home and started touring the world and going to spaces where people from the onset are thought to be confident to raise up their hand and speak up. And I'm like, are you sure you're supposed to do that? He said that? He said what? He raised up his hand? Why? Don't do that. I think it's not even just about raising up your hand. It's also being at the back of the class. I equate that to not raising up your hand. You don't want to sit in front because you feel like if a question comes in, you'll be asked to answer or you'll be prompted to. So you're always at the back because no one calls the people at the back. Or the people at the back are noisy and then they get the attention, but no one really puts that kind of glasses on you to look at you in that way. And I think sometimes the reason why we don't raise up our hands is because we are just scared to be seen.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we're just scared. We don't want to be seen.
I think, honestly, you've touched on so many points that, I resonate with. But I think the fundamental thing about it is the fear of being seen.
Yeah.
The fear of being perceived. Because in that comes the fear of being wrong. And when you're not perceived, you can never really make mistakes. No one can actually reject you. No one can say anything bad about you. And to be fair, I'm an overthinker. So if I say something wrong, it's probably going to haunt me for a month, a whole month. And to your point, I grew up, I come from a tribe, Yabavenda, in South Africa. And that tribe is the humble tribe, the tribe that never really speaks up. We're a very small minority. And we're constantly othered.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And growing up, I had the blueprints of the people that I had around me are people that never spoke up. The women around me, according to Venda culture, the women don't really speak up much, The women, raise the children and all of that. I was lucky to have an aunt who's incredibly strong, but she was also like me, very shy, very quiet. Same thing with my mother. My mother allows me great freedom, but she's also very quiet, very shy.
Yeah.
The only time my mother speaks up is when someone says something weird about me. Then she's like, not with my child.
No.
But other than that, it's a society of people who never raise their hands. It's a society of people who to a great extent, when we look at African cultures, it's a society of people who put their heads down and survive and provide for the family.
Yeah.
Never people who stand out or people who want to stand out in so many ways. And maybe I'm generalizing, but that's the experience that I had in my particular community. And I found that even going into school, to your point, I grew up in the village until I was 8 years old. So when I was in the village, it was nice because I was always the weird one. My grandfather used to look at me like I'm a hippie. He's like, I don't know what you're going to bring home, type of thing. But that was the one place I could be myself. Like I would dance and do all of those things. So I was a very extroverted child.
Yeah.
I then moved to the city, and that's where I was bullied for 7 years. But there's something about it where you equate that to your community, you equate that to being different, where you get silenced without even realizing. I remember one of the first days of school, I loved singing. I still love singing. They're like, show us your talent. And me, being the extrovert, I went up and I sang. And when
You can sing though. Like
Thank
we've
you.
heard you. Like you can sing.
But I sang. But the thing about me and lyrics, so I sang and I got the lyrics wrong. And then someone pointed that out. And like the bullying slowly started from there, because I realized I grew up in a community where I never felt the need to be validated, because, it was just the thing. I was like the talented child or whatever. And then you get to a place where people nitpick. I mean, we're 9 years old, and 9-year-olds are nitpicking different things, And I remember after that, I just started being quiet because people would laugh when I get the lyrics wrong. Like, I got the melody right. What's the problem, But then you start internalizing those little things from a very young age, which is why, like, in a lot of my books, my children's books, I emphasize the importance of letting your child speak and letting them finish.
Yeah.
And obviously my mom didn't mean to, but like even when I'd sing at home, she'd be like, oh, you're making a noise, go sing outside. And I get it, but I read this book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's one of my favorite books. But he made an example of a woman who had a young daughter who loved singing, and then one day she was singing in the house and that woman had a headache, right? So she's like, shut up, you don't even sing well. I'm paraphrasing, but like, you're making a noise. But she also said, you don't really sing well, The child stopped singing. The child actually stopped speaking as well.
Oof.
She didn't realize in that moment what she had done.
Yeah.
And if I'm getting the details wrong, I know they're quite similar to that, but I don't think I am. But she didn't realize what she had done to the child because of her words, and the child stopped singing. But I think in African culture as well, what you find, and maybe in many cultures, a lot of parents do that, so they discourage us from even putting our hands up without even realizing. They're speaking to one particular situation, but then we start putting our hands up altogether. And I found that in class, like you're saying, I'd sit at the back of the class, I'd really put my hand up. And even when I had questions, without even realizing, teachers even get to a point where they exclude you without realizing.
Yep.
Because they're the kids who look like they're going to make it. They're the kids who put up their hands.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you put your hand up more, that equates in the people's minds.
You're smarter.
That you're smarter. You're going to be more successful.
Yeah.
She's the one. He's the one. And they start ignoring the children at the back who are introverts. It's like, I really want to put my hand up. I promise I want to put my hand up. I just can't. Because it got to a point where it's not a choice whether I put my hand up or not. I just can't.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't. I would get to a point where, like I was explaining with my English teacher, like I would prepare speeches and they're so good because I used to read a lot and I used to create stories. I actually had a really great dream about a movie. I have a lot of those with movie concepts, but I would have those things, so I would write a lot. I would write things down and do all those things. But when it came to actually delivering it, because not putting up your hand is also you silencing your voice without even realizing.
Yeah.
Because putting up your hand means I'm going to vocalize something. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to put myself forward.
Exactly.
But in moments where you're actually put forward and you actually have to speak up, it also goes hand in hand because you actually forget to speak. You actually forget what your voice sounds like, because then you end up being one of those people who's like, I hate the sound of my voice.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to voice notes when I'm done and all of those things. But I started realizing how it affected me in different places where I really put up my hand. In school, most of my undergrad, I really put up my hand. I couldn't even ask for help. You know, like you can't even
Sure.
go to like your lecturer when they have like an open door policy, because what
Yeah.
if I'm wrong? What if they see how stupid I am? You
Yeah.
know, what if I sound stupid? Even though you know you're smart, what if I sound stupid? Then it becomes a conversation, a pull and tug in your head where you discourage yourself. But by the time you're even done discouraging yourself, the class is over. The opportunity is gone.
Yep.
You know, when you get to actual real life, I started working with this woman. She's incredible, incredible woman. And we worked together, and we were in a mentoring session, because now, you know, like I do speak up, but we're in a mentoring session. She's like, we want to teach you how to put your hand up.
Mm.
Because, you know, when we speak about gender equity and even
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, we forget to actually, the part where we actually have to put our hands up for opportunities.
Yeah.
We forget the parts where we actually have to speak up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in certain spaces. But she's like, I want to encourage you and teach you how to put your hand up.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, if you don't put your hand up, you're never
You don't
going to get
it.
them.
Yeah.
If you don't say me too, if you don't say please pick me, if you don't say please consider me, if you don't say I'm talented, if you don't say that I'm good at this, how are people supposed to know?
Yeah.
And I know, like, in hearing that, it was quite important for me, because there'd been so many moments in my life where I just didn't put my hands up. You know, when you look back at your life and you're like, oh, maybe if I did here, maybe things would have been different.
Yeah.
Maybe if I did this, maybe things would have been different. But you live with so much regret. And I know it's deeply rooted in trauma. You know, I'm reading this book by Gabor Mate where he speaks about the big T and the small T, you know. And the small T is quite important because it's things that should have happened, but they didn't. So, for example, in my case, I was bullied, which is part of the small T, but I also didn't receive the encouragement that I needed to get, you know.
Got it.
I was a child who, when I was being bullied, I didn't really want to speak about it because I didn't want to bother my mom, because she was a single mom. But then, do you see the pattern of silencing that then
How it
starts
goes. Yeah.
in different spaces? Even when you're being bullying, I look at bullying as abuse. It's straight up abuse. Even with those abuses, like it gets to a point where you just don't speak up, you just internalize, and things fester and they grow until a point where you don't even know what your voice sounds like anymore.
And to speaking about even knowing what your voice sounds like, it gets to a point you don't even know how powerful your voice is. You forget. So when you do something like, and that's where any single time you utter something, it's a hit or miss because you don't know how to project it. You don't know what frequency to give it. And I remember when I first started, my therapy session, and my therapist was like, you have to stop vocalizing the things that is in your head. Like, I am a dreamer. I would imagine anything. Like, I'm very creative in my head. But I would not bring it out. And sometimes when instances have happened, things have happened to me, I'm like, I won't speak up. I'll just keep it and internalize it. I'm like, you know what, I'll deal with it later. Or maybe I'll go research on it later and I don't need to ask right now. Or maybe I'll find them in the hallway and then I'll tell them what I'm thinking. And then you don't know. So it's like you have to start vocalizing when you think of something. Like, I get it. You might say the wrong thing, but just split second in your head, just think of how to put it in the sentence and give it out there. Okay. And in the initials, you would make a lot of mistakes because you've not learned how to vocalize things. So when I'm vocalizing right now, I can say something and then people be like, oh, wow, that was really harsh. And in my mind, I'm like, that's not close to harsh. Like, I could go harsher. Yeah, you said this, but you could have hit it stronger, like that. So you don't know what frequency to give your voice at. So it's a whole learning process that you have to go through. So you realize that in our adulthood, we are unlearning things that we've learned, like growing up, like, which is don't speak. And now, okay, I have a voice. How do I use my voice? And for you, I love your platform where now you use your voice more and more to speak about women issues, to speak about equal opportunities, to speak about issues that are happening in the community and on our mental health and all those things. Like, you found your voice. And I'm like, So whenever I'm listening to you or even when we're working together, I'm like, working with you is such a breath of fresh air. Like, I can hear her. I can hear somebody who is not scared to vocalize. And then you say some certain things, or I hear people speak and I'm like, I wish I could talk like that. I wish I could really like say things the way they say. I wish I could flow like that. And you hear other people like, you actually can. Sometimes you actually do speak like that, but you're not listening to yourself. You're not putting yourself there. You're not recognizing yourself. You're only recognizing the people around you because you feel like they're doing things you're not doing. But you can do it. You've been doing it. You're learning how to do it. You just have to have the confidence to raise up your hand and say, hey, I want to do it. You've been doing it. Now I want to do it. It also like there was a year, I think it was in 2022. I said it was my year of yeses. I don't know if it was following a movie or a book I had
It's
read.
a book by Shonda Rhimes.
Yes,
of
it's
Yes.
like
I actually read it.
just say yes. So I'm like, and I told my boss and supervisor and mentor and friend, right, that, you know what, this year I'm just gonna say yes to anything and everything that comes to my way. Like, even if I don't want to do it. And I think one episode you spoke about fear, the fear of doing something, the fear of making a mistake, the fear of actually just going over and saying, I'm going to do it, or I can do it. And we don't do things because we are scared of whatever the maybes would be. I'm like, I will be scared, but I'll still do it. So there was a time where she came to me and she was like, we're having this symposium and then we want you to present. And I was like, maybe not. And she's like, no, but there's gonna be a teleprompter, so you can actually use your words. You can speak, and we should do it. You've been working in communications for a while. You can do it. I'm like, okay, yes, I'll do it. Who is gonna be my co-presenter? And it was just beautiful, Stephanie Lovu. I'm hoping I'm getting the name correctly. I've been seeing her on MTV Sugar for forever. I had like a mini crush on her. She was really, really that good, and I really liked her. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do it with her, I'll just bounce off her energy. But then she came, and I'm finding her intimidating. But I said yes, I'm gonna do it. We're in the last minute, and we have to do it. So it's just, and I think that's one of the things that I learned from Beyonce and other people who do that, to just have an alter ego and just switch it on. So Daniel is scared, but. And I call my alter ego Joe, which is my middle name. So he would go and do everything. So like he comes through and he's like, okay, let's do it. So they do makeup and everything. And before we get on stage, I am shivering. Like, I think Daniel is coming in, is like, yo, we can do this. But we had said yes. And then we did it, and it was a really beautiful 2 days. And it was a mandate and a mission that I was really passionate about, because it was talking about women and girls, menstrual hygiene, and available access to menstrual hygiene products, and then be able to say that they need this, and men and boys also not making it weird and having this kind of stigma about menstrual health and hygiene. So it was a really passionate topic of mine. So when we're doing it, everything was just flowing. And then I'm like, you would have said no to this when you actually love the work that you're doing. So, and I think that also ushers the people we surround ourselves with. Like, some people who realize that you're, and this with your English teacher, because you said she could see that you were trying, you're doing it. You're just not raising your hands, but she'd give you the benefit of the doubt. So these are people around you who are like, you can do it. I see that you can do it. You're scared to raise up your hand to do it. So I'm actually going to push you over the edge to get to a place where you see that you can do it.
I think the other side of that is, so my therapist, one day I'm gonna have her on the show, 'cause that woman is incredible.
Our therapists are doing well.
But she says so when I got to doing my master's here in New York, I saw her, I think, a month in, and I was explaining to her that I can't put my hand up. And it's incredibly frustrating because I always know the answer, but it feels like fear is internalized in my body where I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And then she said to me, sometimes you need to do exactly the things you fear in order to get over the fear, but because of what's waiting for you on the other side.
Oof.
Because a lot of the times when we don't put our hands up, we're missing such a big blessing, such a huge opportunity where I started putting my hand up, right? And when I started putting my hand up, um, one of my lecturers said to me, "You're one of the pillars of this class." Because when I started putting my hand up, I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm in New York. I have no one here. And also, like, yeah, I've invested a lot in this thing. I have to put my hand up. And even if I'm wrong, the other side of it is someone correcting me.
Yeah.
The other side of it is learning, which is what drives me. I love to learn. I love to do all these things. And going back to the year of yes, in the book, Shonda Rhimes speaks about how she didn't like any speaking engagements. I think she was asked to do a keynote at one of the universities. And she would always just say no, but in the year of yes, because she told herself that it's a year of yes, she did it. And when you watch that speech, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. I love Shonda Rhimes. And she's incredible. But the more she started saying yes, the more her life changed.
Yeah.
The more her life changed. And that's the thing about putting your hand up. That's the thing about saying yes to the things that we fear. There's always something so beautiful on the other side, So how I entered Miss South Africa? I had a friend, her name is Tulisa. She said to me in 2019, so it was Winnie Tunzi wins Miss Universe. And it's incredible because I thought I couldn't do something like Miss South Africa because I had no hair, and even when I have hair, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to walk in heels. Like I said, everything, I said in a previous episode, I was looking at everything that could go wrong instead of everything that could go right. Yeah. And then she said, okay, make me a promise that you're going to enter Miss South Africa 2020. This is in December 2019. I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And then entries open, right? And we need to record a video to post on social media because it was during COVID. In my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is my worst fear, speaking in front of people, right? And the other thing is, the reason I don't want to enter is because I'd have to speak in front of people. And for me, that is, I just imagined like not being able to get the words out. Yeah. And I remember I was looking at the other videos from different people, and I'm like, oh my God, 1 minute 30 seconds. Who speaks for 1 minute 30 seconds? How do they do it? I wish I was like this. I wish I could do this. And then eventually I'm like, I made a promise. So one thing about me, when I make a promise, I can't go back on it. I decided to record the video. I remember what I was wearing. My hair was a mess. So I put on a head wrap, and then I put on my mom's shirt because at the time, honestly, I didn't have money to buy new clothes. And then I recorded it. And then when I recorded it, I posted it. It was 43 seconds. And I was like, it is what it is. I'm probably not going to make it in. And then I make it in. Eesh. So I conquered that one fear, and then I made it in. After that, it was interview stages. I'm like, oh my God, I have to speak in front of people. That thing of wanting to be good enough, of not wanting to be rejected. And I didn't know what I'd say. I was just so nervous. And then the question they asked me is, what is your guilty pleasure? And the thing about it is I was like, okay, what is my guilty pleasure? My guilty pleasure is a muffin. It's not really a muffin. It's like a cupcake with caramel on the inside. Oh. But when you do things authentically and just speak from the heart without over-preparing, because there's also the other side of over-preparation.
And then you make a mistake.
You make a mistake. But it was beautiful because it made me let my guard down, And then comes the competition in itself where I'd speak here and there and it was fine, but then every time I'd go back to my room, I'd think about how I could have said it better, and then I'd beat myself up for it, in a very unhealthy way, to be fair. And after that, everyone was like, you're going to win, you're going to win. But every single night, I'd go to my room and I'd cry because I just thought I wasn't good enough. And I kept on thinking about the final moment where I have to actually speak. Yeah. That's where everything's going to go wrong. People are going to see that I'm not good enough. People are going to, I'm going to get rejected, essentially. You spoke about the fear and this being scared, because ultimately it's fear. Yeah. And I remember I called this one friend of mine and I was like, please help me write my final statement. Please help me. Tell me what to say. Tell me what to say. And then he's like, Abs, I can't tell you what to say. He's like, you're one of those people who you can just speak from the heart. I was so mad at him. I was so mad at him because I'm like, no, why didn't you just help me? Why can't you just help me write this thing? Tell me what my mission statement is. Tell me what my values are. I'm asking someone else to basically tell me what to say. Yeah. And he's like, Abs, I would really help you, but I think you can do this by yourself. As soon as he said that, I went into this weird spiral of I actually don't know what I'm going to say. This is the moment where I will freeze, my biggest fear is literally going to come up. And then I realized in all of that, I was trying to, because it's also trying to put the content of what you want to say into something that will be palatable for the next person. And I remember for the longest time, because of where I come from, I really believe in educational and economic empowerment. Without it, I believe that no society can move forward.
Yeah.
But because of what I'd been going through in the competition and how my mental health was suffering, I was honestly spiraling because I just didn't think I was good enough.
Okay.
And this is the moment where I'm facing my fear in the most uncomfortable way. And I remember my uncle said to me, if you believe the crown is yours, then it's yours. If you don't, then it's not yours. You are waiting for people to validate you. People have already validated you, but you still don't think it's good enough. You still don't think you're good enough. And I had to start being delusional. Being delusional about the fact that I think I can do this.
Yeah.
Whether I didn't believe it or not, I had to change the conversation with myself. Where I was like, let's go get this crown. I'm going to win tomorrow. Deep down, I was like, But I'm like, I had to change the conversation until I was delusional enough to believe it. And then I realized that what I've been going through this whole time is a result of the trauma that I'd faced as a child.
Yeah.
And I needed to deal with that trauma, acknowledge it, acknowledge that I'm going to have to fail a few times in order to get to a place where I know what my voice sounds like, because I didn't like the sound of my voice. To be fair, I didn't know what my voice sounded like. And it was strange for me because for the longest time at that point, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror and find beauty in myself.
Yeah.
So it became like an acknowledgement of so many other internal things that I needed to deal with, which is the fact that I'm looking in the mirror, but I don't like what I see. Like, who's that person? I don't know what you look like.
Yeah.
And in turn, I didn't know what my voice sounded like. And then I realized that, you know what? The one way any society or even just me can conquer anything is with the mind.
Yeah.
And that's where Mindful Mondays came from. And that's where the
Nice.
mental health empowerment came from. And then my mission statement became, I believe the mind is the powerhouse, the tool that can change societies and the narratives therein. Without it, we cannot go anywhere, because I am living proof of the fact that I can not go anywhere until I get over those fears, those traumas, or deal with them directly head on. Until I deal with those fears, unfortunately, I will never win at life. That's just plain and simple.
Oh, wow.
And in whatever communities I go in, we can give as many food aids as we want, you know. But until people want to do it for themselves, until they believe they can overcome that, education doesn't help with anything if people's minds are not in it. If you believe you're going to fail before you start, you're going to fail before you start, because you've already told yourself that you will.
Yeah.
It's those conversations that we have with ourselves. And that's why mental health is so important, because it's those conversations, the healthier ones, that begin to like break those little chains within us, those little chains of trauma where you thought, if I speak, I'll always get in trouble. If I speak, I'll always be wrong, you know? Then you have those conversations with yourself. Just try, you know? Just try.
Yeah.
And the first time I spoke in front of people was when I won the Miss South Africa crown.
Nice.
Where I remember my voice was shaking.
You were shivering.
I was shivering. If you watch the videos, I was shivering. But you know what mattered to me the most? I said it.
Nice.
I finally said it. I said something. But what I didn't realize is that the words I said the next day would touch so many lives for as many years after that.
Yeah.
Because so many people understood what I was saying. So many people were like, oh my God, you know, like the next day the newspapers were speaking about mental health, something where in African culture we sweep it under the rug because it doesn't exist. Now it's front page news. Mental health is front page news across the country, and I mean, even in different publications around the world. And it was so interesting how the moment I decided to speak up, that was something that a lot of people needed.
Yeah.
But imagine if I didn't. Imagine if I didn't speak up. Imagine if I just gave up, you know. And to this day, I still thank my friend for not writing that speech for me. I still thank him for not speaking on my behalf.
Yeah.
I still thank him for allowing me to believe in myself and pushing me towards that, because you were speaking about the company we surround ourselves with, right? And the company is so important because those are the people that push us. Those are the people that tell us we can do it. Those are the people that refuse to help us when we need it because they know we can do it.
And then we think they don't like us.
Exactly. It's like, oh my God, I thought you were there for me. I thought you were this for me. But those are the moments where true beauty and true change, you know, that's where the diamond comes out. That's where the diamond comes out. And when I think about my life until this point and what my therapist was saying, she said, you know the things you fear, those are the things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And now I want to do them. I've got a whole bucket list for this year where I want to do things that I fear.
Nice.
Because I don't think our parents realized that they instilled fear in us, their own fears, and they
Yeah.
didn't intentionally do it. They didn't intentionally do it, but I was telling my mom that, like, you know, I think I inherited your fear of so many things. You know, when I wanted to jump in the water, you'd say no. When I wanted to, like,
Yeah.
you know, the water sports when you're traveling, they'd say no.
Because they're trying to keep you safe in
Exactly.
their heads.
But then they didn't keep us safe. They just stopped us from living without
Yeah.
even realizing that they were doing that. And the thing about being at the back of the classroom is that when you start speaking up, that's where grace and favor locates you.
Yeah.
Because I was telling her how I came to New York to live a quiet life, but then I realized that, like, I easily fall back into the fears that I had. You know, they're not speaking up, being at the back
Yeah.
of the class, starting over again. And then she said, Shuda, I don't think it's possible. I don't think you realize that it's impossible for you to sit at the back of the class because you've got so much light in you that it will always locate you. That light will
Yeah,
always be on you.
exactly.
And so many of us, the reason we feel like uncomfortable when we're not speaking, because it's that uncomfortable burning feeling inside of us where you know you should have put your hand up, but
Yeah.
the fact that you didn't haunts you because you were supposed to.
Yeah.
That's the light.
Yeah.
That's the beauty right there. That's
Yeah.
that's the other side right there.
Yeah.
And I'm learning every single day. Like I said, just yesterday, I couldn't put my hand up.
Yeah.
Every day is a new learning experience, but I'm learning that we need to. We can't say we didn't get opportunities when we didn't put our hands up. We can't say that should have been me when you didn't put your hand up.
Yeah.
You can't say that, oh my God, this is the life I wanted, but you didn't put your hand up. You didn't say yes to an opportunity because you were too scared that you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
To this day, I get job opportunities and I'm like, can I do this? People are coming to you because they believe you can do it. But I'm like, can I do this? Salary negotiations. Am I good enough?
That part.
You know, can I charge this? Can I do this? Can I do that? It's almost like we're waiting for someone to validate or literally put your hand up for you, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing about life is that life will let you be if you're not
Yeah.
careful.
So refreshing to hear you speak, and honestly, I think we as people need to get to a point where we understand that our perspectives are different.
Yeah.
And our perspectives are developed and changed based on our lived experiences. And like you said, your friend couldn't write for you.
No.
Because your lived experiences are different from his or hers or theirs. So you raising up your hand to say something, to give an answer, to give an opinion in class is based on your lived experiences, what you've seen, what you thought about what you saw. No one can actually develop that. No one can learn from that. You yourself cannot change that if it's incorrect, if you don't say it out, if you don't speak it in a safe space that you can actually say it. And someone says, oh, no, it wasn't red, it was this way. Or, no, what you saw didn't happen this way, it happened that way. Or, oh, I didn't know people in this place, because we are from different places, different families, different communities, different societies. If you don't raise up your hand and say or speak up of your lived experiences, people would not know you, people would not learn from you, people would not add on to whatever they know to be knowledge. You can't live in the world as a silo. So you have to get over that fear and understand that you have an opinion, you have a voice, you have a perspective, you have a lived experience that you're supposed to share with your community, with the people around you. So you realize how you in class and you're like, oh, you're scared to raise up your hand. But now when you raise up your hand, you're like, always wanted to hear what you're saying, because you're coming with a totally different lived experience, from a different economic background, from a different community, from a different way of life that probably half of your classroom would never get to experience,
He actually said
would
that.
never go to, would are clueless about it. And then you doing that sparks up that light in them, or the fire in them. Oh, I want to do what Shudu was saying. I want to see what that is. I want to know how that lives like. And that's actually how it starts. So whenever like people are really quiet around me, I'm like, are you sure? Like, I want you, don't give me a one-line statement. I want you to give me the statement and then expound on it. Because sometimes, like me, I've understood that when I say something, it doesn't necessarily carry every single thing I want in that one statement. I would speak more on it for me to make sure that you understand what I'm saying and I'm actually communicating with you. I'm not just telling you, you're also hearing what I'm saying. So if I'm in a classroom, get to a point, I raise up my hand. I'm like, okay, this, that. And I remember that because I got my MBA in Kent's Business School in the University of Canterbury, and it was just a few black of us, black Africans and black Americans and black Brits. I think that's what we call them. And then a bunch of white people. So we fall into that whole going to the back. And then when they say something, like you see a lot of people are not speaking and we're not talking. And got to I'm like, I was in HR, working in HR. There's one of the HR classes. I'm like, I've been working in HR and in this part of the world, because of the kind of community we are in and what people need and the resources people need, I should be able to speak up. So I start raising up my hand. Like you can say something like, okay, from my background. So when I start with that statement from my background, you have a measure to mark me by. You can't mark me by your standards.
Yeah.
You're marking me by the standards I'm coming from, because I'm like, where I'm, my background, what I've experienced, what I've seen, this is how things have been happening. If it's a wrong way of doing things, how do we correct that? How do I go back and change it? Also, if that's not what you've been doing, do you realize how it's giving other people a quality way of life than you have been giving people? And then that's how like conversations in the classroom come across. And then I'm like, oh, this is fun. Or sometimes you just spark a fire and then it's just blazing and everyone is having conversations in the classroom. I'm like, oh, I did that. And you can only say I did that because you raised up your hands to speak up. You raise up your hand to do something. You raise up your hand to say yes or to voice out. And I just want people to understand that you have a voice. You should raise up your hand. The only thing you should be careful about is how you put out your words. That's all. Just make sure whatever you're saying is meant to be constructive to people and not necessarily derogative and break people down. That I would not give you a pass. I'm like, you have room, speak, but just make sure that whatever you're saying, the other person next to you is getting something to edify them and not destroy them.
Yeah, respectfully so, because, there's some people who just speak, but they're like, I'm just being honest. No.
Just be mean and rude.
Just being honest doesn't make your statement correct. But I
Yeah.
also like the fact that you said from your background, because what my professor told me was, because I was the only person from Africa in the room.
Whoa, that's a big.
Yeah, I was
big
the only person from
responsibility.
Africa, and I would then have to speak on, I'd have to speak on the fact that, like, this is your reality, but this is our reality. I always speak about how a lot of the things that we read, especially in classrooms, which is so important, a lot of things that we read are written about Africans, but not really necessarily like written by Africans. And that's
Nice.
a huge
Yeah.
difference, where you'd be there and you're reading this material like, what?
They did this? Like, I don't think that is right.
And everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but like you'll read something that says, oh, colonialism was actually a good thing. I'm like, what? And you're sitting there as an African knowing the effects of it. I mean, you and
Yeah.
I off camera were speaking about what's happening in the DRC.
Yeah.
You telling me that was good? Because,
Yeah.
I was listening to the former First Lady of Namibia, and she was speaking about how Africa is run by, I'm paraphrasing, by traumatized leaders who've lived through wars, conflicts, and you still expect those people to be like of sound mind to run their countries, right? She's not saying it, she's not generalizing, but she's actually speaking about the effect of mental health on the African continent specifically, where the things we say, how we don't really speak up, because even from a leadership perspective, like it's only happening now, but sometimes I don't even think it's happening in the right way, but like where leaders are now speaking up and putting Africa first instead of trying to fit into the grander scheme of things.
So you see how it goes?
You see.
All the way from the home, it goes all the way to our leaders who are not speaking up when they need to speak up.
You see. And even when they speak, it's almost like they're also scared of saying the wrong thing. And from a diplomatic perspective, it is correct. You know, like how you said, as you said, is supposed to edify, is supposed to be constructive. And I completely agree. But you know, what was interesting for me is reading material or even reading books that are written by about Africa, but not by Africans, where our reality is completely misconstrued. But maybe we should start writing. Maybe we should start sharing our real opinions. But then what if our real opinions then are not palatable to the rest of the world? Where's the balance? Because I feel like the importance of putting our hands up, the importance of raising our voices and speaking up is something that I feel, like you said, you're from West Africa. I'm from South Africa. But I can tell you most Africans have the same experiences that we do, where, you know, like all the black people find themselves sitting at the back of the class. And we don't realize how that's a norm in general, where we're supposed to be at the forefront. Our continent is endowed with so much wealth and minerals and resources, but yet we sit at the back of the class like we are not at the forefront of those resources, are not at the forefront of the fifth industrial revolution. It's our resources, by the way. But yet, when the world is deciding what the fifth industrial revolution looks like, we're sitting at the back because, hey, hand up. I love the fact that a lot of African leaders right now, I don't know if it was Ghana or Uganda, I can't remember, but they're at the point where they want to have agency and speak and put their countries first instead of trying to fit into the grander scheme of the rest of the world. Because to a huge extent, I feel like for us as young Africans who want to be leaders of tomorrow, it's amazing because it's like, oh, I don't have to fit into the mold of what the rest of the world wants.
It's a good thing to see.
Yeah, it's like literally being active participants of the change that we want to see, finding African solutions to African problems. But I think it is really important for us to speak up, to not sit at the back of the class, because my professor is amazing in the sense that he was amazing, in the sense that he was saying that you represent the global south. You're one of the representatives of the global south, because I would speak of my experiences and then you'd have other students that, like, we didn't know that. And the truth is, they honestly didn't know.
They didn't know.
They honestly didn't know. And then you'd have other students where I'm like, this is your reality, this is my reality. You know, you can't attack me for my reality and I can't attack you for yours. But then you get to realize the importance of our voices in those rooms. And this is not just for Africans. This is not just for black people. This is for everyone, even women. You know, like you and I work in the gender equity space. It's so important that we put our hands up, because we can't bridge the gender divide without putting our hands up, without saying we can do it, without, like, we need to put our hands up even when we are saying, I deserve this, you know? But it's so difficult because of how we've been conditioned. And it's so important that we start debunking all these things, you know, even how we were raised. We need to, the 4 Agreement speaks about how auto-domestication, of like how you don't even realize how a lot of what our parents instilled in us, they don't need to tell us don't do this anymore, because it's literally in our minds. So it's like the if you're punished for doing something wrong, by the time you're like 20, for example, you find yourself saying, ooh, my mother would kill me for this.
I know.
You know, like my mother would kill me for this.
If she sees me doing this right now.
You see, but that's auto-domestication. So how do we reconfigure that? This is in our careers, this is in our friendships, this is in our relationships, this is in our leadership roles. How do we reconfigure, like, not wanting to sound out of turn, not speaking up, not raising our hands, not saying this is wrong, not saying this is what we want. Basically carving a new path for ourselves. How do we re-domesticate ourselves in a way and make sure that the next generation is comfortable putting their hands up? Because I was speaking to a 14-year-old boy while I was in South Africa, and his mom and I were speaking, right? And I'm like, you better put your hand up, because we were telling him what to do with his life. You know, like it's a table of adults and he's sitting there and we're telling him what to do with his life. You know, by the end of it, I'm like, how? This boy didn't even say no. I don't agree. You understand? Because that's how we look at respect, by the way. We think respect is sitting back and letting people tell us who we are and telling us what we wanted to say. Oh, yeah, he agrees. Did he say he agrees? So eventually he's going to bed. I'm like, next time I come to this house, if we're still speaking about your life on your behalf, we have a problem. I'm like, you need to put your hand up. You come from such a diverse culture, because he's in a really great school, but it's like a really, like, there's not a lot of us in that school. So I was like, you need to start putting your hand up, bro. Like, you need
Yeah.
to actually start. Don't let people tell you
Who you are.
who you are. Because the thing about not putting your hand up is that you leave room for people to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
So I was like, next time I come to this house, I really want you to challenge us.
Nice.
Because we sat there for an hour telling him about his life, saying, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And he's just sitting there like this. But I just remember that like being the thing, you know, like I remember after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you know, like the big careers like doctor, lawyer, accountant, right?
know.
And I had no interest in any of those things because like a lawyer, it's a great career, but it's not me. Doctor, I can't even stand to see the sight of like my own scars, like, you know, and I'm a germaphobe, so it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then accountant, I hate accounting. I failed
Ugh,
accounting
numbers.
in grade 8. But it was like I was waiting, I couldn't put my hand up and say I didn't want to do this. So I ended up taking a gap year. In my gap year, still I would look at what everyone else is doing instead of like saying, okay, this is not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, even the subjects I took in high school, I didn't tell my mom that I didn't like physical science. I didn't like it.
Got it.
I didn't like, and the thing about it is I ended up doing so bad at the subjects all because I couldn't say like, you know, this is not for me.
This is not for me.
But then in that gap year, I learned that I needed to carve out a path for myself. You know, like I'll share it another day, but like I found myself, I was like, okay, cool. Because I didn't speak up then, it's like a ripple effect of me not being able to get into the things that I want. Because I did bad for science, I did bad for what else did I do bad? Like science and biology, because I wanted to take the subjects that allowed me to be a doctor. Girl knows she can't be a doctor.
I can see you in the white though.
No, the germs, like it would be me and sanitizer all the time. But eventually I was like, okay, cool. I can't go back to the moments where I didn't put up my hand and I didn't
Yeah.
speak up for myself and the things that I wanted. But what I can do is basically do things for me.
Yeah.
So that's how I even got into my undergrad. Not because my marks were great. I just had to like around
Get
there.
your way in
So it was first an extended program for 5 years. But then when I got there, I spoke up for myself. I said, your policy says if I got this mark here, I can get into this. Got my 5 years reduced to 3 years. That's how I got into politics. And the thing about it is that it's so interesting because you get to see how much, again, of us is written about
Yeah.
us, but not by us. And then I was like, okay, cool. I don't really like the way politics is being taught here and whatnot. And then I then pivoted into the degree that I actually wanted. I didn't have the right marks for it, but because I worked hard in my first year and chose the subjects that I wanted for me, I managed to get into something that was like way above the marks that I got.
Wow.
And that's how I graduated into the PPE. But my whole point was I just need to make sure I get in, then I'll figure out the rest
Yeah.
later. But me getting in, I couldn't ask my mom to get me in because my mom, like me wanting to do politics or me wanting to do international relations, is not something she understands. I had to go there and speak for myself. And even when I was intimidated by the lady in front of me, I was like, you know what? It's worth a try. As long as I spoke up and I tried, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I'll just
the
do the
worst you
5
can
years.
get is no.
Actually, my friend said that. She said, he said that the worst thing about life or the worst thing about people is that we always scared that we're going to get a no, that we don't even bother trying to ask in the
Yeah.
first place. He's like, most of the time, because I was so fascinated by him, every time he's on the phone, he will call anyone. I'm not joking, anyone. He thinks he can ask anything from anyone. And most of the time, he always gets a yes. I'm like,
Nice.
how do you do that? He says, I ask. A lot of these people are not expecting you to ask.
They
So
have
every
it.
time when I do, they're like, huh. They're pleasantly surprised that they're just forced to say yes. You know, in
Nice.
a lot of spaces, no boss is expecting, okay, I'm not going to say no boss, but a lot of the times they know that you're not going to come there and ask. So they'll just let you be, whether they think
Yeah.
you're talented or not. The truth is, if you don't ask or you don't go after the things you deserve or speak up for the things you deserve, no one is going to move you from the place that you're at
Yeah, that's true.
and tell you what you deserve on your behalf.
That's true.
Unfortunately, your friends can do it, but like,
That's true.
you need to say it for yourself. You need to be assertive in that space. But he taught me that the worst thing about people is the fact that we always think we're going to get a no, so we don't even bother asking. And that's what I've started to do. Like,
Yeah.
I ask, I get a no. I'm like, at least I asked. Like, I'm like,
No, okay. No, fine. find something else to do, or go to the next project, or figure something out.
Yeah.
Okay, you said no. Probably you're not the person to provide me what I need at that moment in time. There is somebody else who probably can, or somebody who is going to tell you or direct you on how you can get what you need to get for yourself. And I think we're always thinking about the end result of the get, that we don't think about the journey to getting it. Because during you being present in that journey, you learn from it. You become a different person at the end of it, of the guts. Like you've gotten it and you're like, oh, I was able to do this. I learned this to get this. I'm like, I can do it. Like, why was I scared to do it? And that is the beautiful thing about life, is that once you put yourself out there, there are learning opportunities, there are getting opportunities, there are making connections you didn't think that you're going to make. There's learning things about yourself that you didn't know you had. That's because you took that step. You took that step of raising your hands. You took that step of using your voice. You took that step of putting yourself out there to learn something about yourself. I'm like, and I think it still comes back to that whole thing of we being scared of failing. But I think I've heard Zoe's and Zaldana say a lot of times that there's no failure. Like, you didn't get it, but you learned something in the not getting it. And then when you learn from that, okay, this is not how to do it, then you learn how to do it and you go do it. There is no failing. There is no you lack. There is no you lost in this game. There's only winning. There's only gaining. Because I try to jump high to get something. I try to like you were saying in the application, like applying for school. You applied for school. You didn't finish the application because you were scared. And then, you went back. But now when you're going back to an application again, you know the kind of questions that they're going to ask you. You know the address you have to put it. You know what to expect in the application letter, in the application routine and program, and you do that. Because you know you've gone through it before. You didn't make it the first time, but the second time you did. You go, you get a no again, you do it again. And then you never know when you get the yes. You only do not get yes when you stop trying.
And I think the other thing is, when you're saying that, all I could think about was in business, right? I was always so scared to be assertive, so I didn't speak up. You try to, another thing that I think a lot of us Africans do, we try to make everyone else feel comfortable except for ourselves, right? So I find myself trying to keep everyone else comfortable except for me.
Yeah.
And then when things hit the fan, I go to one of there's this friend of mine, great business guy, and he's very harsh. I'm like, what should I say? What should I say, right? And then, eventually, he then, I got to start realizing that he will say things how he says it, but it's so not me. That's not how I want to do business at all. And then eventually, I had to start standing up for myself. In the beginning, it was uncomfortable, but eventually I'm like, you know what? I'm extremely intelligent, but I'm allowing myself to dumb me down, and in turn, it's causing a lot of anxiety in me because I'm not speaking up. Eventually, I started speaking up. And the thing about speaking up is that I'm very thorough. I'm a cancer. I remember everything. I investigate. So when it comes to leaving no stone unturned, it's me. So I realized that how I'm communicating is different from him because he will never think the way that I do. He will never speak the way that I do. He'll never approach things in the way that I do because I'm also very careful, And I learned a lot from him about business, but how I wanted to do business is with a lot of empathy because I don't believe in burning bridges.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me.
Yes.
So where do I find the bridge between the two, where how he does business is very much I'm going to cut you off right now type of thing, And he's great at it. But when I was thinking about the kind of businesswoman I wanted to be, it was different in the sense that I wanted to still show empathy, but also make sure that no one messes with me in the sense that you're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to... there's a lot I could go into, but it was more, I needed to find my voice in that space
Yeah.
and speak up in that space, but in a way that I could be comfortable with.
Like
Not
letting people know what you stand for and your
exactly.
principles.
And my principles, I think
Yeah.
that's it. Not foregoing my values because I couldn't speak up for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and not that he doesn't have values. He's got great values. It's just that how he does business is very different from how
you do it.
me, the empath in me, the person who wants to be kind, the person who is kind, like wants to do business, you know. He may think I'm soft, and I told him, you may think I'm soft, but I want to make sure that when I say I'm done or when I look back, I can be proud of how I handled this.
Yeah.
I'll still show the same sternness that you did, but I want to do it my way.
Yeah.
But when you don't speak up or use your voice, you allow other people to dictate
Yeah.
what their end result looks like.
Yeah.
But you'll never really be comfortable with it. You'll keep questioning it. You'll keep wondering, maybe I should have done this. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But you didn't, you know? But yeah, I really want to carry on this conversation around the importance of putting your hand up. And I'm going to have a part 2 of it because I listened to something very interesting about putting your hand up and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And then there was this interesting woman who I hope I can get, who spoke about how she believes that imposter syndrome doesn't exist because why is it only attributed to only women? And I think there's a point there. I know like it's not palatable to a lot of people, but she's so brilliant. I hope I can get that in there. But one thing I also realize is the reconfiguring of our cognitive behavior. So that would be something very interesting. But I think it's so important that we don't look at what could go wrong if we do speak up, but think of what could go right. And I think a common book recommendation is The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Yeah.
That book changed my life.
Yeah.
It changed my life. She's an incredible woman, but it also showed me and him what happens when you do say yes, what happens when you do speak up, what happens when you do put up your hand.
Yeah.
Because it's also about being okay with uncertainty. It's about being okay with being wrong, but it's about not being okay with not trying.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To feel uncomfortable when you don't try.
Exactly.
You have to like get into that mindset where you're like, I am not myself because I let this opportunity go by. This opportunity to learn, this opportunity to help somebody, this opportunity to stand up for someone or stand up for something that's right, to use my voice out there.
Yeah,
I'm
something you believe in.
comfortable that I didn't do it. And then getting to the point where I'm like, no, I can't sit for this. I have to say something. And then you say it out there, and then you create a change. That's the only way you can create a change in your surrounding. If you speak up, if you say something, if you use your voice.
But also not comparing yourself to other people, you know? I know we're wrapping this up, but like not comparing yourself to other people in the sense that you spoke about like how you're like, I don't speak like this, I don't do things like this, because I would find that like there's certain, I had to do a TED talk and I wanted to do it my way. Because it was a story, and one person who resonated with me was Chimamanda. She's incredible, and I loved how she tells stories, and I'm a writer, so I love telling stories in the same way. But I wanted to emulate like the people with like high energy, you know, like, I'm an introvert, I can't do that. So I had to do it in my own way, because it got to a point where I thought what I had to say wasn't good enough because I couldn't do it like how the next person did it. So being comfortable with how you do things and how you speak up and how you say things, not trying to speak up like the next person, you know?
Yeah.
Because I also think that's quite important.
It's true. I think to that point, I just say we learn from people, but we are not learning to imitate those people.
Exactly.
We need to learn from them, see how they did things. Okay. And then how can you do your thing to achieve probably the same results and more.
But in your own way.
In your own way.
Your own results.
So how you do it, like to achieve, okay, basically I want to make an impact when I speak. This is how she speaks, this is how they speak, and that's how they make impact. But then how do I also make impact, but also by the way I speak? So it's this way and not me doing this, basically. And it's a thing that I think a lot of us like go through life and we have to learn it, because it's not something that everyone is born with. We all learn that. And then the more you're growing and the more you're knowing yourself and the more you're figuring out yourself and then giving yourself room to grow, you figure out how to do things yourself and then find that thing that's your identity and then become the it's the Shonda Rhimes, the Oprah Winfrey
You become
of
you.
yourself. Yeah.
You become you.
You become you off the world. Because
Yes.
they did the same thing. They found a way to become themselves off the world. And then she said, you're one of one. So
I'm number one.
thank
But
you.
thank you so much, Daniel. Like, I know I put you on the spot. You were just
No,
sitting there
this is-
listening, and then I just like, why don't you come sit down? But I really love this conversation because I think it's so important, not just for an African, not just for a woman, but I think it's important for everyone because I think we're all trying to find our voices and our spaces and recognize the magic we have inside of us. But we can't, like you said, imitate or emulate someone. We need to craft our own path and be comfortable with the things that we have to say because they matter. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me, and I'd love to hear this. Love to hear more from you, and I'm really excited about your journey in New York because you're so excited about it, and we've been talking for years, and you've been talking about it, and I like the fact that the light that you have coming in here to New York hasn't necessarily changed. I'm hoping it doesn't change because a lot of us are like. New York. But so yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and I'm glad that you're back into Mindful Mondays. It's really exciting. At least another thing again to have on my podcast again to listen to. So
I'm
thank you.
excited.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.